Hello everyone, this is Jotto and welcome to the Hearthstone Weekly Show. For this week we're going to be doing a deck tech on Mech Priest. Not two words that end up next to each other that often. But anyway, this particular list is actually Stephan's from HWS. And I thought, well, credit where credit is due, I'll put the link in the description of his deck rundown on that particular website. Now, this is not the exact 30, it's 29 out of 30, but for all intents and purposes, the deck list is his. Now, he claims to have an 85% win rate from 5 to Legend, which is incredibly impressive for anyone who's done Legend runs in the past. And so I thought, man, I might as well test out the deck, and it is very strong. If I have a chance to record a gameplay video, grinding ladder, I will. Normally I just play the ladder games and record them directly after the deck tech, but today I do not have time, so hopefully I can put those out tomorrow. But yeah, now before I forget, the voting for this Friday's tournament is actually closed, and the format ended up winning is Highlander, which is you could only play one of each card in your deck. Some of you may know it from Magic, and also only one Legendary. Putting that restriction in there because it means you have to be careful with what Legendary you pick, as you can only have one, so choose wisely. So, onto the deck itself. Now, you're playing Priest, so you do have Power Word Shield, Northshires, these are fairly compulsory. If you draw power, then you have Felon's Chosen, one of the best tempo buffs in the game, and you're playing a tempo deck. So you do have all of these really cheap assets in Priest. Then your Shadow or Death deal with anything large. I'm playing one of Shadow Madness. This is actually not on the original deck, although I think with the amount of Death Rattles running around at the moment, one of Shadow Madness is extremely powerful. So I'm running one Shadow Madness. That's a replacement to Ysera, because I don't personally own Ysera, which I do find rather surprising considering how long I've been playing this game, but whatever. Now, the other tech option there is Holy Nova, and something this deck tech is going to focus a little bit more on is we'll go over the core cards and then go over a couple of things you can sub out just as playstyle options. Kind of like I did for the 5 decks of the limited format. Then, for the rest of the pre-staples, we have one of Holy Fire to heal up against all the aggro decks, and just some extra burn. It really helps when it goes to the face. 2 Light Bombs instead of Vulcanized Circles, just more card efficient, and you have serious space issues in this deck. Now, it does mean you're skimping on Holy Novas, which is a bit awkward. As I said, you can run one instead of Shadow Madness. I'm running just for Madness right now. 1 Cabal. Can't really fit into with the Holy Fire's Light Bombs and then Sylvanas and Sky Golem, but 1 Cabal, very very good against Zoo and Hunter and Shaman, but Shaman's not really a thing right now, so very very good against those Foster decks. And then lastly, for staples, not a Priest card, but staples are Sylvanas to steal their stuff. It's incredibly powerful, and boom, because he's overpowered. Kind of. I mean, he's called Dr. Balanced by the community for a reason. He's just too much value for 7 mana. So anyway, onto the mech side of the engine. You're playing a almost complete mech engine here. Cogmaster for your 3 attack 1-drop. Mech Warpers with a Neurotrons for all those protection of the Mech Warpers. Even a Shadow Boxer. Shadow Boxer has been astonishingly good in my experience, just with basic hero powers. And if you're playing Holy Nova, it gets crazy. In fact, I would recommend if you play Holy Nova, maybe you could play 2 Holy Novas, take out a Light Bomb, just test that out, and then play 2 Shadow Boxers, because Holy Nova Shadow Boxer is disgusting. I have done it with other versions of Mech Priest, and it is really gross. Just so much spread damage. It's the Knife Juggler of the deck, and that's saying something. Spider Tank, the 3-drop of choice. No Tinkertown Technicians in this deck because you're not an aggro deck, you are a tempo deck. There is a difference. Tempo decks try and get the board position and then kill them after that, whereas aggro decks try and rush you down. So this deck plays a lot more like the slower draws of Zoo, or Demon Zoo actually. Demon Zoo or just full Demon Warlock. It plays a bit like that as opposed to Rush Hunter or Midrange Hunter, for example. Or Hybrid, I guess, if you want to go between. Piloted Shredder is the 4-drop of choice. No Yetis in here because Shredder is just better in my opinion. Now, the advantage to playing Yeti is that you do have hero power, works much much better with the Yeti over the Shredder, but Shredder is just so good, so you can't ignore it. Upgraded Repair Bot, it's hilarious that this is seeing a bunch of play now because of these decks. Well, I say a bunch, it's playing way more than it ever has in the past. The effect is completely absurd when you get it off. The problem is getting it off. Sometimes it's just a vanilla 5/5, which is not good, but it's okay. But that battle cry is utterly absurd when you get it off, especially on a shredder. Yeah, you have your 4/7 shredders. Seems fair. I've also used this on mech whoopers to get a nice and healthy 2/7 with the mech boost. So Upgrade Repair Bot is an all-star in the mid-game if you have early board control. Once this deck gets board control, you basically win. You have Power Word Shield, Villain's Chosen, Shadow Word Death to deal with anything that can get board control back, and then Upgrade Repair Bot and Vojin being the last board control wrestle type card. You can play Vojin, swap something's health, and then use your Mech Whooper from earlier, or a Cogmaster to just kill it. Vojin has been very powerful. He's a bit situational, which is the reason he doesn't see that much play in Priests in general, because they have so many situational cards that one more... The idea is one more can't hurt. It really does. You can't play any more situational cards. But Vojin is very, very powerful in this kind of deck, and 6 attack is massive for a tempo deck. Then we have Piloted Sky Golem as the 6-drop mech at the top of the card, because this is not an aggro deck, this is a tempo deck, and Sky Golem does work when it comes to being a tempo mech. Now, normally they don't play Sky Golems, mech decks, however those are the more aggressive ones, whereas if you want to play a more stable, withstanding mech deck, you can tech the Sky Golem. It's in the original list, and I think it's very good. It's not mandatory, but I think it's a very, very powerful card. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about possible techs. Let's just go on to showing everything. Now, in terms of possible tech cards, there's a few. There's Shadow or Pain, although I wouldn't recommend it, just run Shadow Madnesses. You don't need Thought Steal. Second Boxer with Holy Nova, as I talked about. I've seen people running Tech to Mind Blasts, but those are much more aggressive mech decks. It's okay. I tried the aggressive mech deck builds. You do get wins just from sheer surprise factor, because no one plays around Mind Blast, but it kind of feels like a worse mech mage at that point. You're not bringing anything new to the table, you're just shifting a deck into another class. So, Mind Blast will eventually be good, I promise, but not now. And by eventually, I mean in... I don't know, whenever Priest gets enough aggro cards. If they keep releasing cards like Shadow Bomber, then eventually they're going to get enough good aggro cards, but not for now. Besides that, no Cultists, because you have Spider Tank, and second Shadow Madness is an option. I think 1 is fine, 2 is stretching it a bit, but if you really want to beat those aggro decks, 2 Madnesses will crush them. You can also play 1 Madness, 1 Holy Nova, because you have Shadow Boxer, which works. And as I said earlier, if you play 2 Novas, you can go up to 2 Shadow Boxers for massive amounts of damage. Orkanai Circle, speaking of massive amounts of damage, is okay. The problem is it's a 2-card combo, and you're already playing a tempo deck, so you're not playing control deck. You can't really wipe your own board as well, which is why I think Light Bomb is much better, because it's a good comeback card. Now the other thing about Organize, it's a 4-drop, 4-mana 3/5 with nice tempo swings. It's okay, but you have Shredders and you'd rather go Shredder, upgrade a Repair Bot, and then get Light Bomb down if you get behind. So too many cards in the deck and you have to be greedy on card space. There's not even that many tech slots. I think you could cut maybe the Sky Golem, 1 Light Bomb maybe, Shadow Madness possibly, 1's Chosen possibly, like 1 Villain's Chosen, so it's only leaving about 3 tech slots. In terms of other techs, Mind Control if you're playing a bunch of control decks, which don't really exist right now, and then a second Cabal if you're playing its massive amounts of aggro decks. You can always go up to that second Cabal instead of that Piloted Sky Golem. Now, that's pretty much it in terms of the Priest-specific tech cards. Now, if we go on to the normal tech cards in the neutral slot, you do normally have Zombie Chow, but you're playing a more aggressive tempo-y deck, so Zombie Chow is not for this particular deck. Now, besides that, you're playing the pretty much full suite of 2-drop mechs. Actually, if we just look up mech here, make this easier to search for these particular cards. So, in terms of well, you're not playing Clockwork Gnome because you don't have enough card draws to sustain Clockwork Gnomes, and you're not running off spare part synergies like Mech Mage are with Antonidas. Now, as I said, no Tinker Towns because you're not playing an aggressive deck, playing a tempo deck. Harvest Golem's a bit too weak compared to Spider Tank, especially with your hero power, because 4 health is a lot when it comes to your hero power. Already talked a bit about Mechanical Yeti's anti-heal bot. 1 more mana, you get Holy Fire, heals less, but it also kills something and functions as a burn spell, which is potentially very good. Fel Reaver is okay, but sometimes the deck does get grindy, and while in theory you can heal up your Fel Reaver, I don't know, it needs testing. I would say if you want to try out Fel Reaver, run him instead of Piloted Sky Golem and go from there. He is a big game hunter target, but you have Boom in the deck to take advantage of that. And besides that, I would not recommend running a second Sky Golem. They're a bit too clunky and there's just better options. I think that's pretty much it in terms of tech cards. Oh yeah, late game. Before I forget, late game. Now there's a couple late game options here. There's Chromagus, which is okay. Problem is he doesn't really do anything the turn after you play him. Rag, since you're playing Boom, you can get away with a Ragnaros. I've seen some people running Nefarian, late game Priest, and the big one, Ysera. Now Ysera is the one in the original list. As I said, I do not own Ysera, but Ysera is the one in the original list for those control decks. Now personally, there aren't that, in my experience, there aren't that many control decks running around. But if you need some extra help, you can get Ysera in there because it's close to unkillable. In terms of if they don't have hard removal, good luck with that 12 health with 4 retaliation damage whenever you attack into it. They can't just smack a whole bunch of stuff into it. So Ysera, very good anti-control card. So anyway, that's pretty much all the different tech options. As I said, this is not a very techable list. Well, it does seem like I just went through a whole bunch of different things. Realistically, as I said, you only have 3 tech slots. You can take out Golem, you can take out maybe a Light Bomb for a Holy Nova or a extra Shadow Madness, and then maybe a Chosen. That's about all you get. It's not much teching room. It's not the most tech-tastic. That's a terrible phrase. I'm never going to use that one again. But anyway, it's not a list you can tech out that much, which does limit variation between lists, but considering how new the deck is, well, I say new, it was around when GVG came out, but no one really got it to work. But considering how new it is in this current metagame, no one's really figured out the optimal build yet, so if there is a tier 2 deck, maybe a tier 1 deck even, if you're lucky, out of this, then I think someone may eventually find it. Personally, I think this is a tier 2 deck, meaning that it can win and you can use it on ladder and do well with it, but I wouldn't recommend taking it to tournaments personally unless you're trying to surprise your opponent. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. If you want to sign up for the Friday tournament, I'll put the link in the description where you can find out all the information for that one. But now, from Jotto, signing off.